Okay, there we are. So welcome everybody. Welcome to a new edition of our live webcasts on Lingua GMT. One more Thursday at 4 p.m. here in Spain. Much later in Malaysia, where our guest today is making an effort to stay awake. Alejandra Rodriguez, that will be with us, sharing her experience and helping us learn and understand more about everything related to the experience of living and working in Malaysia. Just a reminder, Lingua Gym today is part of Lingua Gym, so the name itself says it all. We are a gym of languages. It's a place to train the language. So if you need to improve your English or any other language, and you need a method that motivates you, that gives you clear guidelines to improve what you need to improve, and the flexibility that you need to match your dedication to the language with your everyday activity, all this flexibility to choose the day, the time, the level, the language that you need, and with our positive mentality, first of all, and with our hands-on method, hands-on, practical and to the point. We're very happy to help you feeling more comfortable with the language. Language MTV is one more way to be in touch with the language, to see that it's possible to have a good experience talking in English and sharing with the community your knowledge and your background, even though you are not a native person or a perfect bilingual. And today, I'm sure that it will be one more example. So first of all, let me introduce you to our guest today. So let's say hello to Alejandra Rodriguez. Where are you? 1 second. Good afternoon from Spain, Alejandra. I don't know what to say. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. It's the evening here. It's 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
10 p.m. So yeah, hi. It's good to be here.
Well, what time is it now there?
Yeah, 10 p.m. 10 p.m. 10 past 10.
So it's 10 past 10, 10 p.m. So yeah. There is a difference of 6 hours, right? 6
hours, exactly, yeah.
Okay, so you are in the future at this moment.
Correct.
How is the future at 10 o'clock? What should expect?
It feels amazing. Great. Yeah. Just traveling through time like that, it's just so empowering.
Okay. Thanks for the effort, for being here. I know you are busy. I know it's late and you probably are tired after a hard day and you need to sleep, because I guess that people wake up very early in Malaysia. What time do you normally wake up every morning?
Yeah, it's interesting. The whole year round, we have the same amount of hours, of daylight hours. So every day the sun will set at 7:30, around 7:30, and we'll pretty much at the same time, 7:30 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. will be the sunrise and sunset. So it's pretty cool. It makes it quite easy to go to sleep early and then wake up with the sunrise. Yeah, so I would normally go to bed at 11, but obviously today is a special time. So
well, that's interesting, because then you say that in that part of the world, the sunlight is stable all the year round.
Stable. Yeah.
I don't know if this is good or bad. I guess it's good. Isn't it?
Great. It's amazing. It's awesome. Compared to, for instance, when I used to live in the UK, that at certain parts of the year, for instance, when I was studying there, I remember I would go to university and it was dark, and then I would just leave in the evening, like just finish my lessons, and then it'll be dark again. It was so sad. Whereas here, I can have like my stable routine. There's no like such a high variation. Obviously, it's nice when you're in Spain and you have like longer days during the summertime. But I do really like the stability here. I do enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good. Sounds good. Well, as you can see or you can hear, Alejandra's English sound really British, and I think you will never lose that British accent.
Oh,
Um,
I will, definitely.
really?
Yes, yes, because it's quite interesting as well compared to the English here. Malaysia has been like a British colony, right? So there's still many things that remain, such as, like plugs, the way of driving, like such things. But the English is quite different. It's got a different tone as well. So it's very easy to catch because it's quite melodic as well. So it's very easy to catch. And some expressions are very, very Malaysian. For instance, what I just said to you at the very beginning of this conversation, they would say to you, correct, which is not like, it doesn't feel like different, but once you hear it a lot, like you will start saying correct to everything and everyone all the time.
Okay.
It's interesting, yeah. But yeah, I could lose it for sure.
Well, today we will be learning many more things like these examples, but let me just add that besides what I said before, it's a special day for you because you received today your first dose of the vaccine.
Yes.
So, well, fortunately, I see that you are feeling well and there is no reaction. So, well, fingers crossed that you can resist the whole interview.
Yes, thankfully, you'll be fine. I should be fine. Within the first 12 hours, we should be safe.
Good. Well, tell us a little bit about that. How is the process of vaccination going in the country? The measures at this moment. How are you coping with everything right now?
Truthfully, I was really pleased today with the way they handled, at least at this vaccination center. It was a pretty huge place, and they did it in a really neat way. They really kept the distance between like people. They queued at very specific points where we wouldn't like really, cross contaminate or anything like that. So I was very pleased with my experience at the vaccination center in Penang. Then in terms of the numbers, as I'm aware that Spain is around the 50%. 50% of the population has been vaccinated so far. Here is much, much lesser. Like here it's around 10%. So it is, I've been lucky. I've been very lucky.
Why? Yeah. Because you are a teacher, that's the reason, because you belong to the educational sector?
It's a bit, how different countries have different procedures, right? So Malaysia, at the very beginning, they received a bunch of AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca? Is that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
AZ, they call it AZ, yeah. So they received a bunch of AZ jobs, and no one was keen to proceed with that jab, that specific injection. So they had a lot of rejection. So they decided to open up a small, like a 10-minute, 15-minute option to register online for those people who wanted to, who were willing to go for AZ. They could register. So I did. I registered for that one. And then after that, they've been rolling out Pfizer and Sinovac for the rest of the population.
Okay.
It was very lucky. It's very lucky.
Well, great. And you expected to have your second dose in a few weeks?
We have a system here with an app, which is the same app that we've used to check in every location we go, every shop, every place. It's compulsory to scan that app, so your location is traced, and inside that same app, we receive our notifications for appointments, and so they will notify me once the next.
Well, now that we're already talking about the pandemic, the fact is, well, you moved to Malaysia like 2-3 years ago, more or less?
Well, nearly 2 years ago, so 2019.
So it was quite close from your arrival when the pandemic started.
Yeah, I just only had a few months, like a 6 month frame of happiness and freedom, and then after that, yeah, it was all closed.
Yeah, a high percentage of your time there was, you know, the lockdown, so
Definitely, definitely, yeah.
isolated. So, well, you have this double experience of being living in a different and exotic country for us, but also living this pandemic. I don't know, very far from from the people that you know that you love. And so it's, I guess it has been difficult for you to cope with that.
Tough. It's been tough. In fact, as you're all aware, in Spain there was a first closure, a first quarantine, right? Here there's been three. So at the moment we're in a 3.0 quarantine. We call it MCO, which is a movement control order. So on the very first one, it was very tough, very difficult. I suffered a lot, but it really taught me a lot as well. So at the moment, in the second time it happened, because we had like a few weeks, months of freedom in between. Uh, but it did taught me a lot. And at the moment, I feel like somehow it even has been helpful. But definitely was hard.
In what way was it helpful?
Way. I've had enough time to realize a lot of things about myself, about the world, about society, about our cultures, about, you know, it's very insightful to have all that time to really think and really get to know a lot of, not just about myself, but like all the things that interested me. So I feel like a more grounded person at the moment. I feel like I have grown. So I am somehow, I'm not grateful for this to happen because it's like a really, really horrible and terrible, episode of humanity. But I still feel like there is a positive side to it from my personal personal being.
Mhm. In any of these insights or moments of revelation that you had, did you see clearly that it was a time to return to Spain and work for our team again?
Not exactly that thought, but I did think of coming back. I did think of that. I did like, because I've always been away, right? I've pretty much been away for most of my adult years. So I did consider the fact of, returning, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, let me explain that Alejandra worked for our team, was a member of our team some years ago, which was, well, she left, a very good impact in our team, and we really miss her. She stayed with us for a very short time. I mean, she should have stayed much longer, but she liked so much to live in different countries that we could do nothing. But we haven't lost. We still believe that one day she can come back. But well, tell us, Alejandra, what do you remember from that experience, that moment of your career when you were in our team, teaching people in our community, different languages, different ages?
Yes, I loved it. It was great. It keeps a special place in my heart, definitely. I really miss you all, guys. I'm looking forward to be able to travel back, pay you guys a visit. I do really miss you. It was a very interesting part of my life because at the same time, I remember you were very, very helpful towards me. I remember I had to do I was like studying at the same time, right? And you allowed me like certain hours to go and do my, was it like a small internship for this master's? And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. It was great. I really enjoy the work with all the students at Synergy. I keep a really good memory. I remember, yeah, my colleagues at the time, the students, from younger kids to adults. It was all very like, it was, yeah, it was really good. It was really good. I have really good memory. It
As
taught me
a
a lot, definitely.
Sorry.
It definitely taught me a lot as
Well,
well.
it was mutual. It was mutual. So the thing is that you were born in Spain, and as a native Spanish speaker, you learned how to speak two more languages, because you had already lived in France, if I remember well, before joining our team. So you lived the process of learning English and French and become a fluent speaker, as we can say in the case of English, and then the process of teaching both languages. So you were in both sides. So what, I don't know, what would you say to the people that are now watching this interview, listening to us, and well, training hard to try to become more fluent, more comfortable with the language? What are the main things that you have learned in this experience of using languages? Speaking, learning, teaching?
That's a good question. That is a good question. Especially as a learner, I'd say as a learner, we all have different objectives. We all have different goals. For some of us, we really, truly do want to master certain aspects. It could be like pronunciation, it could be grammar. We do want to feel like we master that language, right? So I'd say teaching it is such a wonderful way of teaching. Let's say if you're trying to learn something, teaching it to someone who doesn't know it yet, it's really powerful because it allows you to really see if you understand it or not. So that is the place where I see that both those two can collide. In terms of learning, what can I tell you in terms of learning? I'd say for those who are training hard to gain that fluency, the way I did it myself is, of course, if you can travel abroad, that is really helpful. But that is not the only way. That is not the only way. I've trained myself as well with like teachers back home, and I studied by myself for exams, and I prepared exams. So that experience, it really helps. Like the work you do by yourself. I remember I would play the radio every morning. Like every time I have to go from A to B, I would just be playing the radio and listening to like conversations that were completely above my level, which who's like most of the vocabulary they were using I wouldn't understand, but just to give myself that challenge. So don't get comfortable, don't be scared, don't feel like you're not capable. Making mistakes is better than not making mistakes. Like it's much better that you put yourself out there and you try, and you make those mistakes. It's much more important than trying to get it perfect and just not trying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's great to see that the more people you know from different parts of the world and different experiences, in the end, there's a couple of things that everybody agrees with, which is the importance of giving more importance to the communication, that to the number of mistakes, and learning about the importance and the need of making mistakes. I think it's very interesting something that you said about teaching, because perhaps one of the most important points that we have been introducing lately in our method is that in some moments of the courses or the programs, the users have to teach.
Yeah.
Which sounds really strange for them in the beginning, but when they understand how useful it is, they see, first of all, that they can, it's one more thing that they can do in the language, and it's, incredible how much you learn or how much you consolidate what you know when you teach others.
It is a skill. It is definitely a skill.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you have just underlined that, because it's definitely something not very usual in the method, but something really useful. So thanks for saying that.
No worries. I read something about that as well a few years back, where in some like schooling systems they would get the older kids to teach the younger kids, and in that way it would be even more, because you have to think as well that and this is my perspective, right? Not at the higher levels. I wouldn't speak about, I wouldn't do, I don't know. I mean, perhaps, but at certain levels of like language learning, it is even easier to understand certain concepts if taught by someone, by a peer, by someone who's in the same level as you, and they manage to understand it and remember it really well thanks to this method they created, then perhaps it is then from learning it from a native, or then learning it from like a teacher that somehow has like a different learning strategy than you. So yeah, definitely, I agree.
Yeah, actually, this webcast today, it's included in our series of webcasts named English Coaching, because well, today we are talking and going to talk about cultural things, but in the end, having you here with your experience as a teacher, it's a way to keep on helping people from different perspectives about the main process that they live in our community, which is learning the language. We are talking now about immersions, of course, and now we are talking more about the learning process. Yeah, you know, in the end, people say my level is an A1, is very poor, and then you see the people with the A2 and with the B1 and with the B2 saying the same. So my English is poor, is not enough. So,
Exactly.
and exactly with the C1, but when you're a C1, you
I
can teach
agree.
others. And if you're a B1
Yeah,
or A2, you know something and you can
definitely.
teach those points.
Hmm. I
Mhm.
have seen students exactly. I've seen students in this case because I'm teaching Spanish here, right? So I've seen students with an A1 being so proud and so happy and posting on the Facebook status or on the social media about their knowledge, like, oh, I've just got this exam. And they would post it with their own, creating their own sentences, which of course have mistakes. But you see how proud they are. And people with like A1 who think like that it's not good enough to even write a sentence, it's like, of course you can. Definitely. It's about communication, of course. And and yeah, definitely. It's about sometimes even learning a language is a bigger, it takes, how can I say? It takes even from us to leave our comfort zone to start thinking differently. If you think that
Mhm.
you can in many other areas, you're gonna apply it as well to this one skill that you've got right now, right? So it's I feel like it can even be a way for someone to leave their comfort zone, to stop thinking like they're not good enough or they cannot do this for these silly reasons they had in their heads. Definitely.
Yeah, to leave the comfort zone, feeling proud, because in the end, pride is a feeling. It's
Yeah.
not a fact. So you can choose your feelings somehow. Well, now the thing is that you teach Spanish, like you said, you work for the University Kuala Lumpur, and now you have another one more experience teaching Spanish to Malaysian people. Um, I have to say something. I visited the website of the university, and there's something that I have to ask you, because the first thing that you find if you go to the website is a photograph with women, with young ladies wearing, I don't know if it's a burqa or this Islamic clothes.
It's a cyber.
Okay, covering the hair at least, in combination with other women not wearing those clothes. So I'm really curious about that. I mean, they're trying somehow to reflect a reality. We have to read between lines. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So it's very, this is what I told you about before, that every question you've got, please ask, because it is very unknown to us, the reality in Malaysia. Is a big, mm, I'm just looking for the word, but I cannot find it. Anyways, it's, we really don't know much about here. So what happens is, this is a Muslim country, which means like the government is ruled under yeah, under Islam. But at the same time, it is a country that has been put together with three different, they call it races. I know in Europe we wouldn't use this, we wouldn't really use this term, but here is very, very extended. And by three races, which would be Indian, Chinese, and Malay. So it's not the same thing to say someone is Malay and to say someone is Malaysian. So everyone is Malaysian, but the Malay are heirs. They are specific, kind of like you could call them not settlers, but like the natives of the country. Whereas Chinese and Indian arrived later, but they still form the society here. So Malay are Muslims by default. That is there's no Malay with other religions. So those girls that you see wearing a hijab or wearing the headscarf, those are Malay girls. So all of my students who are Malay will be wearing a scarf. And then from the other part, so would be the Chinese and the Indian, they can either be Buddhist, they can either be Hindu, they can also be Christian, or they can be Muslim themselves as well. So those would be, there's a big variety of cultures, foods, religions. It's really interesting country. That's why you can see, you can clearly identify the population here, and yeah, we could say that.
Would you say that this influence is more powerful from the religious or from the cultural point of view, or both of them together?
It goes hand in hand. In reality, a religion such as Islam it really determines your day, right? The way you live your day, it's determined by that. For instance, we hear the prayers every day at certain time. So outside my house, outside everyone's houses, and like even at my work, we would hear the prayers because the government is Muslim. So it does influence their lives, their cultures. It's really ingrained together. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot really separate here. You cannot really separate it.
We were talking before about immersion. Would you recommend Malaysia as a destination for that purpose, for people interested in practicing English, living this immersion? Is it a good country to do that?
You could do that. You could do that because on top of everything, obviously, especially if I'm not wrong, of course, visas changed a lot, right? But before you would be able to obtain at least, if I'm not wrong, around 2 months, at least a month, perhaps two. I cannot assure you it's 3 months, but at least a decent amount of time to be in the country. At the same time to travel because it's beautiful. It's a tropical country. The weather, it's always nice, except on the monsoon season. It's still warm. So it'd be nice to have a decent time to practice your English. There's no specific courses for that here, to be honest. I haven't. I'm not aware. Oh, wait. Yeah, there are some. I did actually met an English teacher once. So you could have an immersion for a decent amount of time and at the same time enjoy the country. So it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. It's far away from Spain though.
Yeah, then I was going to ask about that, the cost of life, also the plane tickets themselves, it's an important cost, but all in all, considering also the financial investment, do you still see it as a destination to consider and to keep in mind?
Okay, regarding the flights, it's very long. So depending on the airline that you choose, whatever is available at the time, it is long because you'll spend traveling at least 20 hours to 24. Yeah, so at least a full day of traveling. It's easy, at least from Galicia. If you live in Barcelona, Madrid, it'll be slightly shorter.
Well, the experience in the plane is an immersion itself. You have plenty of time to speak to other people.
Yes, you visit Hong Kong or Singapore or Dubai in one of the stops. So yeah. So the flight tickets and the flight length, I'd say is the worst part of it. because it is pricey and it is long. Then cost of living here, the currency is called ringgit. So 1 ringgit is 0.22 euro, so 22 cents. So actually, it is financially ideal, because we really, and in terms of like the cost of food, is very cheap. It's very cheap. It's a different kind, completely whole different kind of food, but it's good for those who want to explore. Definitely someone who comes here is not for someone looking for like a mild experience, right? So I do recommend it. It is great. I'm really happy.
Well, if the cost of food or accommodation, etc., is so low, perhaps it can somehow, you know,
Balance out.
balance, the initial investment with the plane tickets, and perhaps it's more affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah, with this mid-term experience of 3 months, something like that one can think in the beginning. You were talking about the weather. Isn't it too humid, or
It
it
is.
is?
Yeah, it is.
Uncomfortable in the everyday in the
What I recommend is wear cotton. Wear cotton.
okay.
Wear, yeah, just something that where you can actually breathe. But yeah, you will be sweating constantly. So I would
Mhm.
never really get rid of the pearls around my forehead, on my neck. It is humid. It is hot. It is very hot. Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
Okay.
For me, it's lovely.
You said about the food that it's really different. How easy was it for you to adapt to this kind of food, or
It was fine. So as many other Asian countries, the basis of it is rice. But there is a mix of course, there's a mix of cultures. So there is a mix of cuisines. So it's, to me, at the very beginning, it is spicy. They love chili. They love like this sort of spicy spices. So that was the hardest thing for me to get used to, having regularly spicy food. But how can I, yeah, rice would be the main, the protagonist, to say like that, the main characters. Yeah.
how is it? I mean, could you describe an average day in your life in Malaysia? I mean, you already said that you wake up more or less with um, I think you said 7:30 is when you have this, so having the sunlight, and then I
Mhm.
guess you go to work. But well, what can one expect from professional and social life there in Malaysia, or at least in the place where you live?
It is. It is different in different parts. So, as I told you before, the place I live is mostly, it is a city. But it is not a touristic city. So it's truly like traditional Malaysian place. In places, this place is called Kedah. So it's a different state. The touristic places in Malaysia are, the two main cities would be Penang and KL, so Kuala Lumpur. So it's very different, to be honest. It's very different. I have made friends here, so I've I've got like a social, I got a social life, but it's not the same thing as you could expect in Penang or in KL. So there you would find more offer of different things, like more, anything you want to do, you will find it there, because there is a big amount of, you can call them foreigners, expats, visitors. They call us Westerns. So there is a big amount of Westerns here. So you would find anything you want.
So
Any
what do you do with your friends? What can you do with your friends
uh,
where you live?
where I live at the moment with the pandemic, not much.
Yeah, yeah.
So at the moment, because we've been in lockdown for 3 times, which is it was more than a year indoors. So not much. I would just go for a morning walk or a morning run. I would just like meet up with them. We do some barbecue at home in the garden. We watch a movie, just like very chill. But in
Yes.
normal times, like obviously people won't be able to travel here during the lockdown because it's not allowed. But during normal times, anything you can anything that we have in any European city, we will have it here. So there's a lot of hiking here. Hiking is very popular. So there's a lot of beautiful places to hike, beautiful hills and mountains, very green. The monkeys are there. You can see the big lizards. That is very nice. And then they will have everything. Uh, how can I say? Laser tag. They would have cinemas, bowling,
Hmm.
bar.
You said that you named the capital KL, so that's the
Yeah,
way people call the capital
that's
KL.
here. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Um, I have to ask you, the fact of being Western or European has so many kind of repercussion in your everyday life there.
It does. It does.
Tell
It
me.
does. This is far as well. So this is the first Asian country that where I've been to and where I've stayed as well. So I've come to realize that there is an Asian kindness where people will share everything with you. They would share their houses, they would share their food, they would literally give and give without expecting anything in return, which I found very beautiful. And at the same time, because this is very different between the colonialism from the UK, from Britain, and the colonialism that Spain or other countries did, where people here don't hate Westerns. They is completely the opposite. They would make life easier for you. They would help you. They will come and try to. They see that you're not from here, so they will make it easier. They would treat you. Sometimes I call it a positive racism because they clearly distinguish it from my appearance, but in a positive way.
Positive discrimination, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it definitely affects in a positive way. They don't see us as coming to take anything from them. It's the opposite.
One more reason to be there and to go there as a tourist or as an immersion, as we said before.
Uh-huh.
Great, sounds great. From the language point of view, you started talking about this peculiar way of speaking and this version of the language. How easy do you think it is for a person that is capable to communicate in English to be there
Yeah,
and to understand the locals? Yeah.
definitely they have a different accent. For sure, they have a different accent. Do not expect British English. Do not. That's not what you're going to find. You're not going to find someone telling you, would you like to do this and that? No, it's much more direct. It's much easier, actually.
The
It's
structure of the sentences itself,
yeah,
of the
they
speech.
would
Yeah.
simplify a lot the sentences. They wouldn't go through the whole. If someone in the UK would ask you, could you please do this for me? They would just ask, can or cannot.
Yeah.
So it's simply more direct. It's in all the languages as well. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, definitely for someone whose level is not as high, you could say, they would, yeah, I don't think they would just struggle as much perhaps. But the accent is different as well, so you do have to get used to it.
Yeah, yeah, of
And,
course. That happens everywhere, I guess. No, in the end, it's
and here you need to adapt to their own, call it dialect. It's not really a dialect, but you need to adapt to their own dialect because they wouldn't use the British English either. So yeah, you would need to adopt
mhm.
their ways as well.
One more question before opening the last section where I hope that somebody dares to ask you a question, but I'd like to ask myself one more, which is about the professional life. We have been talking about teaching and you work as a teacher, but I don't know, for a person that would consider the immersion, not only learning the language, but actually, as you're doing, working there, how is it? Would you say that is it for a Western person to find a job there and to have a contract? What about the working conditions? What is your feedback from your professional point of view?
Okay, from the professional point of view, I need to say that Malaysia is strict in terms of who allows in the country for work. So for your visa, you need a sponsor, and your sponsor must be your employer. So your employer must be willing to pay for your visa and sponsoring you for a certain amount of years. So either you would need to find a job you would need to be, first of all, a skilled worker. So you cannot just come to Malaysia and do any job. They have very strict profiles that they're looking for. So it would need to be a job that a Malaysian couldn't do. So in terms of languages, that is a benefit because they do have businesses with Spanish-speaking companies. So I know people who are more into that section of employment. But yeah, you cannot just come to the country and start working by yourself. That would be illegal. And you could get in big trouble because, of course, the law enforcement is different than what we have in Spain. So in terms of work, you would need a sponsor to sponsor for your visa. And in that case, then you can come to Malaysia.
I see. Good to know. But what, like you said, the fact of speaking Spanish is itself a skill that that locals, most of them, don't have. So this extra skill, together with your profile in sales or engineering, whatever, perhaps gives you a chance and
yes, exactly.
That can open an interesting pathway.
Speaking English, Spanish, and Chinese, yeah, it didn't really have an issue, I'd say.
Okay. Well, we could be talking for hours, at least me, not you, because you want to go to bed probably, but yes, since it's already 4:45, I like to ask our audience if they dare to share any questions with us, especially, the ones in Zoom where it's easier for me, but I have also opened the Instagram account, so yeah, of course, I will be happy to share your questions. Are if you're in Zoom and you have and you want actually to turn on your mic and ask yourself, even better. In the meanwhile, while we are waiting for the questions, Alejandra, how was it? Was it your first interview ever on television? Because this is a television,
Okay. I feel important now.
Did you enjoy it?
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been great. It's been very, very pleasant. It doesn't even feel like we've been here for that long. So thank you so much for this opportunity to be here.
Well, actually, you have been somehow an exception, not the only one, but most of the times we encourage our users, our members of our community, to be the guests as a way to show them what you said before, which is to accept the challenge and to face it with positivity and bravery. And finally, the experience is always the same, that they thought that they could. So if you're watching this interview, you have learned a lot about Malaysia, and you have received interesting feedback from a teacher and a multilingual speaker, but also you can see one more example of one day it could be our guest. So definitely Language Gym TV is committed to stay here regularly, weekly. And yeah, actually next week, as every last Thursday of the month, we will have again our webcast on cinema. And let me remind you that For the first time this month, we will be opening our cinema forum where we'll be talking about a new release. And we will be talking about Black Widow, the last Marvel movie, with our expert in cinema, Luis Bond. And so watch the movie if you haven't, and come to our live session next Thursday so we can go deeper with it together. Well, I see no questions. You know, sometimes our listeners are, I don't know if shyer or busier, but I highly encourage you to come and to ask because I think it's good for you. Let me see. Okay, Jose Ramon has one question, so thanks, Jose Ramon. Just feel free to open your microphone and ask your question to Alejandra.
Okay, thank you so much to talk about your experience. It's more interesting, and you talk for more points about the countries, and the countries seems spectacular. It's more interesting, but for you, without thinking about coronavirus, what is the worst point to live in Malaysia, for example?
The worst. Okay. That is a good question. That is a good point. I'd say because I'm kind of like a different Spanish person, if you will, because I know in Spain it's very common to have a beer after work, you know, drink your wine, your beer, that sort of thing. It doesn't really affect me because I don't drink myself, but I know for many Spaniards that would be an issue. That alcohol it's highly taxed here. It has a lot of taxes, so it's more expensive. So I know for sure that would be a negative for a lot of people. But me, it doesn't really affect me because I'm just so happy with the juice. But another thing that would be negative for me, sometimes it can be very hot. So sometimes even if I'd rather it being hot, some days can be, you know, it can be overwhelming, definitely. And then anything else that could be negative. I think sometimes, you know what? Sometimes depends on the area where you live, right? Because at the moment, the place where I live is mostly, majority is Muslim. So the way you dress does create certain, not an issue, but you would see people staring, which doesn't really happen in any other country. You wouldn't, as at least as a lady, as a girl, you need to watch a bit what you're wearing. So in order not to create any, you know, possible issue, it's not that you're gonna have an issue, but you will have looks and it might be uncomfortable. So I think that's one of the things where I feel like I'm not completely free. Other than that, as free as in Spain, let's say. Other than that, I'd say I'm happy. People here are lovely. There's plenty of like food varieties to choose from. Truly, people are lovely. I think that's my favorite thing. I just felt very welcomed and very safe, very safe here. And oh, I can say one more thing. Depends on the part of Malaysia where you're at. Depends on, you know, there's like it's surrounded by water on the eastern side and the western side. The beach on one side, the water quality, right? The water state, it's a bit polluted, but on the other side is completely crystal clear, just as if you were in the Caribbean.
In the east or in the west? In the west are pollution.
Okay,
and
so
in
on the western side is crystal clear.
Okay.
It's completely, it's like a paradise. It's a paradise. It's just this light blue water. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's such a shame that on the other side, so we have, sorry, no, in the eastern side. Sorry, my bad. Eastern side.
Problem.
Yeah, my bad. Eastern side is crystal clear. Western side, there is pollution. I don't know exactly what is the reason, if he comes from another country, if it's like there's some sort of like factories there that have not been, I don't know exactly, but that is one thing to note, that you might expect something and then it's something else. Depends on which side of the coast you are.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Thank you for the
No,
question.
no.
Congratulations, Jose Ramon. I am that is some kind of challenge as well, and it's very useful. So great and very interesting question.
Yeah.
And well, you have mentioned 2 or 3 things that are really important to know. Actually, perhaps 95% of our listeners, has discarded Malaysia after saying that it's very expensive for the alcoholic drinks. But well, the fact of having crystal clear beaches perhaps can help. And interesting what you say about the clothes, because it sounds like very respectful people, but somehow the influence of this culture is not totally ready perhaps to see. I don't know. Now, for example, you're showing your shoulders. You were in the street like that today. Was it?
Depends on the location. For instance, if I'm going to work, I would be covered and I would be wearing like looser clothing.
Okay.
If I go to an area, as I told you before, today I was in Penang. So there is no issue. Mostly, you can find most foreigners there. So there is not such a big, you wouldn't get any looks. It's just normal. It's normal for foreigners to dress like this. It's fine. But in other areas where the majority are more like traditional, then it's just to avoid the looks. No one will come and shout at you or just tell you anything.
Yeah.
No, it's just to be comfortable.
Well,
You have to understand that male here see some women very covered. So it's kind of like imagine Spain many years ago. Sorry, many years ago, around like maybe like the dictatorship time, or I don't know whether before that. I don't really know. But it's different kind of dress than we have now, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And for some cultures, it's an impact, yeah.
Yeah, you could
It's
think
like
of
to
it.
see women wearing bikinis on the street, for them can be shocking. But it happens the same in Spain as well. My personal experience also is that people are more open and more modern in big cities, and you feel perhaps that you have more eyes on you if you are wearing if you're wearing strange or different clothes in a strange look in a rural area. People don't even look at you if you're in Madrid, so
Yes,
these things
like that.
happen.
Exactly. It depends on the context.
Yeah. Well. So, yeah. Now I feel bad if I extend this interview because it's almost 11 o'clock there in Malaysia. So, thank you very much again, Alejandra, for being here. It has been a very interesting chat, touching many interesting points and learning. I'm glad that you have also enjoyed too. Thanks for the ones that have been following this webcast live. And I don't know, if there's something else that you want to add, feel free. Otherwise, like I said, thank you and hope to see you here visiting us very soon.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much.
Well, have a great day, everybody, and see you soon on Language Gym TV or in our sessions on Language Gym. Remember that you can try the service for free on our website, synergydidactics.com. And see you next Thursday, like I said before, at 4 p.m. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.